Mm. Just hopping on here because this is me keeping up with things, and somebody asked a question that I thought I would answer. But first, welcome back to my channel. Hi, I'm Courtney Kaiser. Welcome to Journey of Shadows, where it's not all just shadowy here. We talk about glittery, sparkle, rainbow, joy, love, crystals, the mystical, spirit, magic, self-help, self-love, growth. Yeah, all that kind of stuff. But also my shadow work method that I created. That too. I wrote a book about it. It's called The Advanced Shadow Work Method. I'm sure you've heard about it by now if you're here. You might be tired of hearing about it, but alas, it's okay. It's gonna be our life for a while, guys. We'll be talking about it for a while. Until the next one. Just kidding. But somebody asked a question that I thought I would answer about in the book. I mention my past lives. I sprinkle a little bit of information in there. But someone wanted to know more. So I'm going to share more with you. Where to begin? I think my first past life situation was when I was in school to be a high priestess. It's a year-long program, virtual school through Secret Garden Society, and it was every single week, year-long, but on full moons, new moons, we would do a ritual. So we were sometimes meeting multiple times a week, which was great. But there was one class and time in particular where we did past life healing. We went through the Violet Flame, but we also called upon and worked with Kali Ma, Hindu goddess of destruction, chaos, but also divine. She's the divine mother, ferocious, loving mother. She showed me things that I needed to release to fully step into my magic, into my power, into my role as a high priestess, as a healer, as a spiritual leader, even to myself and to the community. And because we were specifically doing a witch wound challenge, that's what it was. And we did a past life. She took us on a past life journey, and through Kali Ma, I was shown various like crucifixion scenes, feeling like it was like me, and but also my village, but that happened like multiple times. Like it wasn't the same image or the same village, same people. I wasn't the same person. It was different lifetimes where that had happened. And then I also saw an image of like myself as a young little boy and hiding because there was a war going on around me, and then I saw my parents get killed. So it was like there were so many elements to this. And that validated information that I had received gosh, I want to say a year prior to that, I had my first Akashic Records reading, and my masters and teachers, the very first scene into my records that they described was basically a dotted line to an experience that I would have as a child. So when I was probably around age 5 is when I started having these nightly nightmares of being in the ocean and being eaten alive by sharks. Now, I never saw how I got there or who I was, how old I was, none of that. It was just I would wake up peeing myself every night to that nightmare. And that happened for months, I feel like. And I never really looked back into it until one day I was in grad school to be a therapist, and in group therapy class, we had an exercise where we had to anonymously write down our greatest fear on a piece of paper, and we would pass it around. And of course, mine was the first one picked, and it was very specific, apparently, because it was being in a plane that crashes in the ocean and getting eaten alive by sharks. And of course somebody was like, that sounds like some past life shit. Like, what? That's so specific because everybody else's, I didn't think it was weird or different, unique, but then everybody else's was like dying, before my children, or my parents dying, stuff like that. And mine was like, yeah. So then I started to look a little bit more deeply, but I had already had an interest, known about past life stuff, life between life regression, hypnotherapy. I'd known about everything that's possible, known to the degree that I knew, right? I knew it was possible, but man, I didn't quite anyways, so better yet, let me just continue the story rather than think of the word. So I'm in this record, right? And they're describing to me, and I can see it in my mind. They're painting the picture for me. And they're saying, I'm a woman. This is probably like in the 20s, 30s-ish, I'm guessing. I'm flying a plane. I'm looking out the window. I'm confident. I'm happy. I know what I'm doing. And then they're like, you don't make it to your destination. I was like, hold on. Is this why? And I asked them all the things. Whoops, sorry. I asked them all the things, right? I'm like, yeah, that's it. That's exactly it. That's exactly what happened. Sorry, I keep getting spiritual information that's making me lose focus and distracting me, so I apologize. But that's what happens often. That's why lives are sometimes challenging, because I forget what I'm saying because other information comes in. But they were describing, like, when I said everything that I just told you before about the class and as a kid, they're like, yes, that happened to you. That has already happened. It's not going to happen again. We're going to blow this trauma, this pain, this experience, this fear off of you. And I could feel this like cool breeze. And we were on the phone. Like, this was a virtual Akashic Records reading. It wasn't in person. So I could feel air blowing on top of me, like warm air, and tears just start rolling out of my eyes. I'm like, oh my God, what the hell? What is this? But within that, they said things that blew my mind, because I mean, they're the masters and teachers of like immemorial, right? And they're saying they're bowing to me for how much I have suffered, for how I have chosen life after life to help people, to be a healer, to be a sacred servant of service in some healing capacity or way, and being and suffering for it. And that hit a certain place within, like, this resonance within me of just like a resounding fuck yes, that's true, that feels so fucking true. I had an immediate distrust, dislike, disconnection from Christianity when I came into this life. I wasn't like a Satanist or anything, like, not like there's anything wrong with being a Satanist, but I wasn't an atheist, anything like that. I called myself agnostic because that's like the safest thing, but I still didn't even know what that meant. And that was in middle school when I was like, I'm not going to church anymore. Growing up in a Southern Baptist family, that didn't go over too well. And I had to make it really dramatic and make a point so I didn't have to freaking go. Right? But that was something that it made a lot of sense to me. If I had been crucified, which they had said, like, yes, there are many crucifixions, you've died many times, your children, you chose to not have kids in this life so you could be free because you have suffered so greatly in connection to children. That's one reason why I didn't want kids in this life. There's just so many little elements there. But then something that they said that didn't even hit home or resonate until later was, because I kept asking them, because even then I was in the waiting room, okay, as they called it, where I felt blocked from my full abundance, from my full potential, from my opportunity, from this growth, this next level up. I felt blocked from it for years, from the things that I wanted. And for them to stay, they would never stay. So I knew there was something karmic, past life, something generational going on. And so I kept asking, I'm like, what do I need to do to get out of this waiting room? Like, I'm so angry and frustrated. Like, I'm tired of waiting. That was 5 years ago, by the way, guys. Maybe 5 years ago. Yep. And they just kept going back to this statement and description that she shared with me before she opened up the records and started channeling, messages that spirit had guided her to write down or had told her, about the Merkaba, but specifically the crystal Vogel of David, the Star of David, but the Vogel Star of David. And I looked into, Merkaba healing and Vogel Star of David, like, so many aspects, and it wasn't clicking. There was one year, I think 2 years ago, that I was about to lead a full moon big release ritual, and I felt like I was about to enter into a very transformative time in my life, which it was. It was right before my divorce. It was right before I moved states from somewhere that had been my home for a long time, and starting a whole new way of being and living, a reconnection with myself, and going back to the place of my birth. But I didn't know any of that was going to happen. So, but I knew that being able to guide people in that journey, I needed to do a big release first. And I was shown, I had asked my spirit guides, one of my guides is my pawpaw, my mom's mom. And I asked him to show me like what I needed to release, and he showed me all of these different lives of me wailing, crying over a deceased loved one, child, mainly children. I think there were like 19 or something that all died young, in various lives. And there were vows that I made of just like cursing people and helping them, and, you know, not wanting to help and all of that stuff. And so I had to break those vows, and I ended up utilizing a Merkaba prayer and healing through the Akashic Records. And so I thought that was it. I'm like, oh, that must have been it, because I felt movement. Obviously, transformation and alchemy happened in my life following that, right? Clearly. But what I didn't expect is that even the next year, I was still in the waiting room, still not, like my life was on pause or something, and I had to get out. I had to change my life. And so I started writing my book about the shadow work method, because Spirit's like, you need to write this book. And I was guided to get a shamanic healing and energy clearing, soul retrieval, whatever extractions that needed to happen. I was willing and happy to do it, because there were things that I was doing, all of these spiritual practices, all of these ways of showing up for myself emotionally, psychologically, through self-talk, through coping and grounding skills, through creating a healthy, thriving environment and habits and all of this stuff. Like, I was taking care of myself. I was pouring love into myself. I'm like, what the fuck is still blocking my abundance? That's when you know it is something ancestral, generational, collective, past life, okay? If you can't see it in your family, especially, also maybe displayed in different ways, but still would have the same undercurrent of emotional origin. Like, it's probably gonna be past life if you can't identify that. So, in which you won't have any kind of memory or connection to it either, per se. But once you discover what it is, you might be like, oh, that makes sense, but not necessarily because you remember, or like, yeah, that happened to me. It's just like, ah. And even just like the knowing, the acknowledgement is enough sometimes, and the release of that emotion. Because when we can actually release the emotion that's there, wow, we can break the chains of continuing the same pattern of repression of why it's still there to begin with. I digress. But going back to the shamanic healing. So I couldn't find where my abundance was blocked, so I got a healing, and sure enough, I learned so much, and so much was validated. This is not something I ever talked about with people, because I would have sounded crazy and full of myself, like hugest ego ever. Ever since I was a kid, I've always felt like I was a goddess, like that I was just like this giantess sorceress walking amongst the earth. And it could have been Xeno's my favorite show, I don't know, like, but I related so much to goddesses. That was my favorite thing to see and watch, and I loved learning about mythology. Like, that was everything to me. It was like I remembered having powers and greater abilities, that like being human was lame, you know? Like, what? So yeah, I always resonated with that. And so we found out that my original soul was immortal, primordial, And like, I was a goddess on another planet and in another galaxy fighting this giant creature demon thing for like hundreds of years, and made a soul contract of like complete and utter defeat, giving up. I wasn't supposed to be able to die, but I died because it ripped my fucking throat out. But I made a contract that then tainted and colored all of my other lives following that. I won't even say what it was, but it was about like not being able to do it, right? I can't. That's the moral of it, right? I got so comfortable in my darkness and my suffering and my pain and all of these things, just like hearing I was disconnected from my light. Like, it took my light from me when it ripped my throat out. So when we retrieved that part of my soul, she gave my light back to me. So I could feel that connection to the warmth that I felt like I hadn't felt ever. And knowing that that light is within me and it's a part of me, that I am extremely powerful and connected to source, to the divine, to God, to consciousness, to the goddess, right? To all of it, to Mother Earth. So, yeah, that felt very validating for me. It was just like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. By certain things that felt so much harder, like emotionally for me, than how it impacts other people. Granted, I'm a Pisces moon too, and there's other things in my chart that make it for an emotional ride for me, an intense ride, but I wouldn't have it any other way. Sorry, I'm getting distracted by spirit. Okay, so going back to what I was saying. Confirmed I was a goddess. And also that I had this contract that I had to burn, make a new one, okay? But that's where the shadow work then lied, was all of the unconscious, programmed ways over thousands of lifetimes, I feel like, or hundreds of them, where that was again further ingrained and programmed into my being, to my crystalline structure, to where it's so unconscious and under the radar, I don't even know it's happening. And that's where the frustration came out, because I'm like, that's the humbling experience of like, yes, we only have so much conscious awareness. Of course I'm not conscious of that. Of course I don't know that. Like, yes, it's okay. Thank you. I'm grateful that now I know. So yeah, that was eye-opening. And within that also, we met a lovely ex-partner of mine from a different life. This was after that original life where I was a goddess and got killed. Sorry about the music too. I feel like there's a restaurant up there and they just turned that on. I don't know. That wasn't happening before. But the next life where the partner, so there's a situation where I am held captive or I am taken for my own free will, and I'm a prisoner that this man likes to torture, to abuse. Pretty sure he killed me. But he is dead. Okay. This is what blew my mind. He's dead. So he's a spirit in this liminal space in between that he has created, his own hell, his Tartarus, where he is earthbound, still torturing me in his mind, because that's his happy place. He doesn't want to leave that experience. He enjoys that. Okay. And there had been a silver, like silver rod coming out of my left under my shoulder blade, where he had drilled it in. She had to like spiritually, surgically remove this rod from my back that he had drilled in, because he had anchored into me for so many lifetimes, controlling and blocking me from my abundance coming in, from joy coming in, from love, good things staying and coming in. I was like, mother, God. Okay, so then, like, all right, cool. And so we had to call in the angels and do a protection and shroud me in sacred geometry so that he can't find me, because he immediately felt the disconnection and was like, what the fuck? Like, where is she? And she's like, he's gonna want to connect. He's gonna try. He's gonna keep trying. Any kind of like low vibration, he has greater access to you. Like, try and stay in your light, try and stay, you know, like feel everything, but don't get stuck there. That's just gonna give him greater access and strength to you. Connection. And so that made sense. There was a protocol of things I had to do after to protect myself from him, but essentially it's like, yeah, he might get bored, or he will get bored, is what she said. When he realizes he can't connect to you again, he can't torture you anymore, he's going to move on and then finally go in the spirit realm, in which he will not bother me anymore. But until then, yeah, that's a thing. So I protect myself in that way, energetically, through sacred geometry, also from the angels, but it's already in place. I can trust that it's there. I just do it also because I trust myself also to help with that. Any kind of fortification in my mind is even better, right? Ironclad. And so we then met with an ancestor of mine 10 generations back on my mom's side. Paternal mom's side, yeah. So long time ago, I had a grandfather, great grandfather, that lived a life without integrity. He was a lying, cheating, stealing, killing, malevolent person, and he was terrified on his deathbed of going to hell, and so he made a vow blocking all of his future kin from any abundance if he would not be tortured in the afterlife. And he realized the consequences of his actions. He felt really bad, and he tore that contract up, sent it through the portal so that it released all of the lineage of our family, because he saw how it impacted all of us. Right? There were shadows and things related to that I was able to then see clearly. And so this is showing me like all of these distinct ways and patterns that I can literally pinpoint in my life that these past lives were connected to, that are assisting me, these healings, this insight, this awareness that it created and built within me is helping me guide my shadow work and my journey, knowing like, okay, these things are the things that I really need to hone in on and focus and heal and release so that that part can come in. Because, oh, I forgot to mention, so when I got the healing done, so she extracted the demon creature thing that was attacking me for however long that I was fighting when I was a goddess. She trapped it in a crystal vogel. Going back to my Akashic Records reading, that was like years before, 4 or 5 years before that. Shamanic healing, when she was like, the Vogel, I keep going back to the Vogel crystal. It's like, yeah, they were foreshadowing that vocal crystal absorbing and extracting, binding, taking in and absorbing the energy of that entity that was attached and attacking me, blocking me from my abundance. So now all that's really left that's keeping me from my abundance is the shadow in my mind, right? The thoughts, the hidden unconscious programs, the thoughts, the behaviors, the choices I make are all related to that. Like deprogramming that out, of becoming aware of those things and programming in what it is that I want to be feeling, thinking, doing, saying, resonating at, by not like dismissing or avoiding or gaslighting. I acknowledge where it's coming from and that that's true for that. And let's also hold space for this, because this is what it truly is. You can feel that, and this is also what it is, right? We're complex beings. We can hold many things, right? And we've been told things are so black and white, and that's why we're so hard on ourselves, because we're like, oh, it has to be one thing. It's like, no, you can feel many things. It's a layered experience that we have, and the more that we can honor the complexity that is our experience and really go beyond the taboo and what you think you know, and being able to understand that you truly know nothing, right? There's so much more than what you think is going on, and when you look into those things, you are rewarded with answers, with guidance, with healing, with growth and expansion. It really is something that I would highly suggest every person to do. I think it's important to break free of these programs, and like it's gotten to a level, though, this is very new within the age of Aquarius, but I have gotten to a place where I don't even have to meditate. Like, spirit just comes to me and tells me things, especially if I'm talking, if I'm with people talking to somebody, spirit will start talking through me, providing me with messages for that person, or providing me with insight to see into a person's situation or something, information about myself, whatever it is that's in whoever's highest good that's involved. But recently, I had another experience where my friend Nicola, she is an amazing high priestess and tarot reader, healer. I believe she also does Reiki. And she gave me a tarot reading, and she did QHHT, took me on a past life regression, and because we were going into some of the blocks and that I was experiencing, or that were being shown in my tarot spread. And man, she took me to this past life of mine where I had already known I was a Mayan priest at a point. Mayan or Incan priest? I think it's Mayan. Because there's another medium that God, she's so powerful and spot on and good in Austin, Yanni Brewer. Man, first time I met her, she's like, good to see you again. She's like, you were a Mayan priest with me. But anyways, that's how I had known. I'd felt no real connection to it besides that. I'd felt connection to the really all kinds of pyramids, so but Egypt more than South America or Mexico. So yeah, but okay, so in this past life, I was a Mayan priest, and I was the one doing sacrifices, okay, and drinking blood and going into trance-like states, tripping balls, giving my visions to people. And I had a vision that we never had to kill people to begin with, and I chose to still do it. That is in line and with the lesson of my ancestor, right? Or within any of the other past lives that I had experienced, with integrity being blocked, with honesty being blocked, with knowing the consequences and weight, the karma of your decisions. Yeah, so it makes a lot of sense in why I would choose certain situations or things where I would suffer or others would suffer. And I didn't want other people to suffer, and I felt such guilt and responsibility and all of these things. And I struggled with integrity and being honest in relationship if I knew I was going to upset someone or disappoint someone or hurt someone. But it was such a unconscious thing that was continuing to happen in my life, and this made so much sense to me why, like, there are so many levels of I understand why, like, maybe I couldn't forgive myself before, and now I have the capacity to forgive myself, even though I look at that and I'm like, damn, that's heavy. But because it wasn't me, technically, it's easier to separate from the emotion, but like, wow, I can empathize with and understand the weight, the gravity of looking that in the face, the fear. I mean, that's what, like, I could imagine. Who knows? He could have felt, because I was definitely a man, he could have felt angry and like, because he enjoyed killing people, you know, because he's a fucking psycho. So I don't know, man. But so I'm working to help myself currently, because that was just, I think, a week ago. I'm working currently to help myself in terms of my forgiveness and catching any kind of unconscious or patterns of behaviors that I'm doing where my integrity is being questioned, and continuously assessing, am I within my best integrity? Not that like I'm like doing like stealing and doing all of this crazy like illegal fucked up shit or anything, but it'll be like, you know, not being totally upfront about this or being very secretive about this, and yeah, just like in past relationships and things, and just navigating that, and knowing that's something that I want, but honoring that and truly embodying that and the lessons of that, right? Just because I work in shadow work doesn't mean, again, that I don't have shadows and that it's not a thing that I'm always looking at too, because again, we only have 5 to 10% conscious awareness. It's nothing, guys. So like, this is an experience for that we're all on together. And the further you dive into this work, the longer you're doing it, the crazier answers and more wild experiences, the more deep and profound, magnificent experiences you get to have, the healings you get to gratefully receive from amazing healers. But you finally feel like, oh my God, I get to make all of these I understand why I do all these things, and like, it's not my choice and I don't want to do these things. I understand what I am needing now in order to move forward with my life, to change this behavior, to work to heal that for my past life self so that I can be free of it. Yeah. In all the past lives that I've experienced. And I'm sure there's more, you know, there's always more. So that is the journey. It's a life journey, and it's multiple lives journey, right? Yeah. So I think I touched on all of my past lives. Oh, there was one that I almost forgot to mention that I did not experience, but it was I've always felt connected to druids, to the Triskelion in particular, which is older, it's more ancient, it's more elemental, more pagan. And I had never actually had my own memories of this life. I maybe had some bits and pieces, but not really until after I was told this information, and then other things started leaking in, and I started trusting myself more based off of what I was picking up, and then asking my client's shadow / friend. She had a past life reading, and I was there. And I've never had a past life reading. I've had QHHT, but not like an appointment where that's where I'm going in and getting that specific thing. So a lot of people think I have, but I haven't. But she's in this life. She sees me. She's like, I just looked into your eyes and I just knew like it was you. I recognized you. And she was like, you were the leader of the druids in our region. And I was like, your second in command. And I helped you, stay more empathetic and emotional because I ruled with kind of an iron fist. And I would go straight to punishment or murder. I would always go to like, I don't mean to laugh, but it's not funny, but I'm laughing because I would. Yeah, I was more violent. I had that warrior spirit in me still of fighting. And anyways, that resonated very deeply with me. And that after that, I kind of lost my way because she was like my grounding force that connected me to my emotion. And without that, I got very angry and I targeted these people because she was targeted and murdered in her family. And I was close with them and they were important to me. And so this was also around the time where, regardless, we were angry because I remember their Christians were coming. And we were in danger in general. We were no longer prized as wise leaders and healers and teachers, and we were seen as witches and evil and bad and wrong. So that was a big blow. We were very angry and trying to hold on. But eventually we were forced to surrender, but look at us now, we came back. So, hey, look at that. They couldn't keep us away. Okay, so I think that's all of my past lives up to this point that I have gone through, and maybe I'll do an actual video that is edited and, I don't know, organized and interesting to look at. It seems like a lot of work. Again, I'm not a content creator, so but I might do it to keep track of everything, because the more healings and things that I get, and as time goes on, I keep learning more and seeing more of my past lives. So you never know, really, at this point. But I might do that in the future. Let me know if you guys would like that. I'm gonna post this though, so you guys can have it. If you have made it this far, I am thoroughly impressed through my digressions and my walkabouts, my forgettings, all of these things. I cherish and honor you for being here. Thank you so much for watching and being on this journey with me. Until next time, please like, subscribe, save, and share if you enjoyed this material. And Journey of Shadows, we'll see you next time. Bye.